Good evening, and I can take these off now. That's fantastic. Welcome to the Online Wine Tasting Club. Now, the people who've been joining us for some time may have noticed that something is missing. But don't fear, because he's just having a massive, massive sulk at the moment. Because last night we did an in-person wine tasting. Yes, we do those as well, and it's a really fun thing that we've done a few times when we had the Tring site. And what we do is we do vino versus vino, where I pick some wines, Jamie picks some wines, and we let the people judge them blind before we've even told them anything about what they are, which led to some quite interesting results. But a super fun evening for a corporate event, and everybody had a wonderful time, apart from Mr. Jamie Smith. And that's partly because we had a bet riding on who was going to win. And so, I mean, you can see this is the kind of event. We're judging our scores, lots of people there, really wonderful time. And this was the final scoreboard. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Jamie Smith now.
No one cares about your scoreboard.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about your scoreboard. Nobody.
So hello and welcome to our Christmas tasting. Hi to St Albans, to Argyll and Bute, from soaking wet Kent, and from West Wales as well. Brilliant. Hi everybody.
All I've got to note is I didn't choose this. You chose that jumper.
It's a great jumper. What can you say?
But anyway, good evening, everybody. Vino versus Vino last night. As much as I'm a sore loser. It was a huge amount of fun. And it was nice to get out in the wild and not something a bit different from being in front of the camera. So really, really good to see it. Some people out in the city. We're at 22 Bishopsgate in London, so it was a good day out. So if people want us to come to them, we'll come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it a lot more of a fun kind of wine tasting event than just a pure, hey, I'm going to give you some cheese and tell you exactly how this pairs. And if you've got the wrong cheese, then you're Satan, literally.
Exactly.
So yes, a fun way of doing things, we think.
So there we go. So what do we got? We got some wine today.
Yeah,
so
this is a good one.
This came to. It's our holiday wine tasting.
Yeah,
it's the last one of the year.
We kind of felt like we wanted to celebrate a bit, didn't we?
And anyone who's on here who's bought one of our advent calendars, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I hope you're having a lot of fun with it. We had a lot of long days, a lot of long nights, but we got them out there. And while we were doing that, I we're going to do one of the wine tastings for the ages.
Yeah, that we want to do. Yeah.
So usually we have obviously a cost because we sell a subscription and we have a budget, and it kind of
went out the
window. A little bit out the window.
Yeah,
but I'm talking too much. We've not got any wine yet, so we're kind of going a little bit around the world. These are a lot of
everyone in
fun wines that we really enjoy. They've got some cool stories. Some stuff I love, some stuff Alex loves, some stuff we both love, and hope you find some really cool, interesting, fun wines tonight. So we're going to start.
Yeah, we're starting in Hungary, aren't we?
Absolutely. And so let's get wine number one in the glass. Do you want to let people know that Slido is ready to go?
Yes. So for those of you who haven't joined us before, we have this cool thing called Slido where you can join in with the fun, send your tasting notes, obviously use the chat, obviously do still get involved with that. But this is where we allowed you to put in your tasting notes. And at the end of the thing, we're both going to have a little Christmas quiz, and
we've got another quiz, haven't we?
Let you rank the wines to see which ones you like.
Moved that camera, haven't you?
I have not meant to move that camera, but I will put it back on. Sorry. So let's. So for those of you who've done this before, you can scan that code, or you can go to towtc.co.uk/taste, and that should take you to the fun.
But we can move that on, and you can start getting your tasting notes in for the first wine. So the reason this is in here is, I think Hungarian wine is really up and coming. There's some and it's interesting when you say up and coming. It's up and coming in the UK. It's not a new wine region. It's not something that's suddenly just happened. But I think when people talk about Hungarian wine, especially Tokai, we have this thought that it's going to be sweet. It's going to be a dessert wine. And this is absolutely not. So Ferment is the grape here. We are from Tokai, and Dobogo is the winery.
It's a very pretty bottle.
It's a very pretty bottle. And a little bit of age on it. 2019 vintage. So I think it's got this lovely richness. And I think it's kind of cool. And, it's signed by the winemaker. I'm always a big fan of when the winemaker puts their name on the bottle. And you can see, we've got bottle numbers. There's a real care and attention. If people are counting numbers of bottles and each label is labelled and the winemaker's signing it,
then it's generally
you've
not
got a
made
good
in a
idea.
factory. It's made in a proper winery. So
Absolutely.
yeah, very, very cool bottle. Quite heavy, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it does feel good. So Hungary, yeah. I when I was last over in Budapest, it was a dry ferment that we had with our meal. And it was just, I was like, oh, hang on, what? A Tokai with our main course? That seems very unusual. But he goes, no, don't worry. This is a very different style, and it's such a cool wine, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it's got this lovely richness, this lovely salinity to it. The tasting notes on the that we put on the thing, I nicked straight from the bottle. It says lemon and sea breeze. I'm like, what does? And I'm like, what does sea breeze taste like? But it really does. It's got this kind of salinity, as you know when you, not in the summer, but kind of when you go down the beach when it's a bit cold, a bit misty out, and you just get this kind of inhale and freshness. It's kind of got that feel about it.
Which is odd.
I cannot take myself seriously seeing the screen that I'm talking about wine with this.
I'll hide you with a wine map of Hungary.
I think that's a great idea.
I think that one of the things that, when I'm thinking about the Tokai region, which is, it's the purple bit, isn't it? Just up there.
Yeah.
And that is only about, I think, 40, 50 miles away from Ukraine. So it's in a...
Absolutely. You're kind of on that border there, and then you've got the Slovenian border going to the north. So you're...
Slovakia.
Sorry.
So that's but the other one, yes. Yeah.
I was close, wasn't I? My European geography is horrible.
One of those two. It's basically a landlocked country. There's some giant lakes in there, which obviously get used as a big part of the wine regions. But Tokai is probably what it's most famous for, and Ferment is a grape which we don't really see in many other places.
No, but you should have this dry style. The soils there, they're quite volcanic. The soil, so you've got good drainage, so it makes for wines that have elegance and power and richness. And what they have in this area is they kind of have their equivalent of kind of like first growth areas throughout Tokai. This is from just out around the town called Mad. So it is a mad good Tokai. See, you like that there.
There you go. Very good, mate. Very good.
So we can go to tasting notes in a minute. I'm just going to go to the other end of the sweet Tokais just to give a little bit of
sure.
A little bit of.
And this is great to see everyone saying hello, happy Christmas to everyone.
We got Newbury, we've got Buckinghamshire. What I'm interested in, what I want to find out tonight, who is the closest person to us? And we're in Leighton Buzzard. And who is the furthest person away? That's what
we
I
had
want
some
to see
deep, darkest Wales.
That's international.
Dennis and Jane there. That's fantastic.
There we are. Look at that. It's all over. It's fantastic. Foggy London. I love the adjectives as well. It's like it's wet Kent, foggy London.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunny Edinburgh, I'm sure we'll get next.
This is a cool foodie wine. And as a starting gambit, I'd say this is a pretty strong one. This is a really delicious wine. Oh, here we go. Snowdonia. Fantastic. Excellent stuff.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic, and I know there's a fair few people who are joining us for the first time, so it's great to see.
We don't normally spend so long saying hello to everybody, but yes,
but we will today.
But I'm enjoying this wine so
much. We're polite.
So.
But we're going to go talk a little bit about the sweet wines, because I think it's a really interesting style. I love dessert wine, and it doesn't get enough love. But what you'll see on the sweet wines is you'll see a word that says petuños, and it will be right. You can get 4, 5, 6, 7. And what that is a sweetness level, but it's actually a real measurement. So when you make wine in Hungary, the name of the general size of the barrel is called a gonk. So they have a gonk.
A gonk?
A gonk.
I thought that those were those like gnome things with the big beards that sit on the ground. We've got a house full of gonks.
Okay,
that's a different kind of gonk. Right, fair enough.
Okay, so they have not got a large amount of bearded gnomes in the winery. They have a large amount of barrels.
Oh, that's where they're missing.
What they have when they go out and they pick the grapes, they have these little conical, almost like rucksacks that they wear on the back, so they can pick the grape, put it over their back, done. That is called a petuño.
Ah, okay.
So what?
And is it the gonks that carry the petuñas?
No. My word. We're on wine 1 and he's going off. It's becoming crazy already. We don't know what to do. So, the first one's going down quickly, so I need to talk quickly. But what they do, so to make the Tokai sweet, they add grape must to it, which is basically just grape sugar. So if it's 5 Petunios, for each gonk of wine, they
Yeah.
will add 5 Petunios worth of grape must.
Okay.
If it's 6 Petunios, guess what?
Well, yes, there's a
And
logic
so
there.
on and so forth. So the higher the number, the sweeter. But it's not a kind of a random, oh, what's this? Oh, that's a bit more sweet. That's 6. It's actually measured to go. And then you've got a very top level called Essentia, which is, my word, this stuff ages. I got to taste one a few years back. To be honest, I can't even remember the vintage. But they sell it in 100ml bottles because you don't need any more than that. It's horrifically
it fits in a
expensive.
pouch.
Exactly. Horrifically expensive. And it can almost be black in colour and it will age forever. It's like treacle. It's so decadent.
Wow.
It's you know how if you've ever had a PX from Sherry,
Yeah.
that makes that taste light, easy drinking. This is absolutely insane. But yeah, should we have a little look at the tasting notes?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think. By the way, we must have a winner, given we have somebody joining us who's come all the way from Western Australia. So a big shout out to Matt's mother-in-law there, and welcome. And I hope you're enjoying. We can throw you some wines that stand up to some of Australia's best ones.
Well,
we've got some of Australia's
we're
best ones.
we're doing. Oh, we're jumping the gun. We're doing Australia next.
There.
Western Australia. We're not on that tasting, but Margaret River
not
is one of my favourite places in the world for wine. But hey, we digress. But I know I'm going to start sounding like a broken record because we said the wine was complex, but you just look at the tasting notes. The tasting notes showcases that's what it is. We've got that salinity. We've got green apple. We've talked a few times about WSET tasting clusters. That we've got our citrus, we've got our tropical, we've got our apples and pears, we've got our what am I missing? Stone fruits. Yeah. And if you look at this, we've got citrus right there. We've got the green apple. We've got the apricot from the stone fruit. I'm now
Steel,
looking,
mineral,
we've
herbs.
We've got all those different clusters, all those different flavors, all those different styles of thing. And each time you go back, there's something else in this wine. Yeah. And is this something I could sit and drink 3 glasses of by itself? Well, it's me, so yes. But generally, this isn't something that I sit and drink 2-3 glasses of. This cries out for food. This, I think, is cheese board, like a mature, you have that mature kind of like cave-aged cheddar where, you get that crumbly salinity in it. That's my kind of thing for this.
Sounds good, definitely. So really a really fun wine, and Hungary is actually quite a foodie country, and obviously it's great for so many reasons to go to, and going around the spas of Budapest is fantastic value for money place to go and chill out in a beautiful warm naturally heated swimming pool, and then you can go to these great restaurants and try wines from all over the country. I think we could probably do a wine of Hungary entire tasting very easily, couldn't we?
Oh, I think so. There's
the breadth of it is really quite.
Yeah, wine is becoming so much more global and styles that you don't expect. This is what I find tough when we do country related tastings. To try and do an entire country in 6 wines is idiotic almost, because there's so much cool stuff to do.
There you go. That's your thoughts.
There we are. See, great minds and the like. Look at that. I like this new. Well, I like the things, but I can't read the font. I don't know who.
Oh, this is the Christmassy font. I can change it.
It's fine. I just don't know who it is. I can see what they're saying, but I can't read the names.
Fair enough.
But there we go.
Yeah, really interesting one. I'm just trying to think. Your traditional Hungarian foods. It's your things like goulash. I think that would stand up to that, even with the sort of the quite sort of sweet, sour sort of things that you'd get in that.
Well, it's got that. When you're looking to balance food, 2 of the big things you look for is salt and acid. Mm-hmm. And this one has both of them in abundance. And food and wine pairing sometimes doesn't matter. If the wine's good and the food's good, you're going to have a good time. We don't need to overthink it. Sometimes we overthink it, and we don't need to.
Don't overpower one with the other.
So how many wines did I say I was wearing this for? just the first one.
Well, I tell you what, we should let people vote on when Jamie's allowed to change out of being enough. It is very hard.
Oh, look at that. We got hello from Tring. We like hello from Tring.
And Wendover,
Tring. I like my local friends.
Well, I mean, I think I'm really excited to be trying some of these other wines now.
Oh,
you look like you've
was
kind of
that
finished.
a hint? It's time for wine number 2.
I think it might be. It might be. Is anyone all right to move on to wine
Yeah,
number 2?
I still need to know how many. If there's no answers, I'm just wearing it for wine 2, and then I'm done.
Last
So,
look at that. I love that people are getting those hints of rosemary and herbs in there. Just every time you go back to it. Unfortunately, it's gone. My one has, at least. But yeah.
Okay, so we are running from one side of the world to the other for wine number 2, and we are heading to Australia. And for those who may have been with us for a while, we've done the red version of this previously. So this is John Duval's Plexus, and it was in the earlier days of the online wine tasting club, and I think it was one of Alex's first interviews he ever did with a winemaker.
Well, it's only that I've done on my own.
For the club.
Yeah. I
So
was really looking forward to it because they had it's a father-son team, and the father used to make a little wine that was known as Penfolds Grange. So he was the head winemaker at Penfolds, and he made Freaking. No,
Winner.
let him be punished. And so I was looking forward to this because I was getting to sort of geek out and talk through some really fun, interesting, deep topics, and I think he was quite enjoying it. The fact that we were going in some really deep levels of exactly what you know. Don't just tell me you do this. How do you actually do that? How do you do the
It was a fantastic
interview.
interview. We should get the whole thing up on the website so we can have a look at it. But Alex then thought, after this deep and meaningful interview, to ask one of the best winemakers on the planet if he'd ever had any encounters with drop bears in the vineyard.
And what would you advise tourists? Drop bears obviously being the fierce cousin of a koala bear, which tends to just end up in massacres when they drop out of trees onto your head, and they're definitely not made up by Australians trying to scare tourists who come into the country believing that everything is going to try to kill them. And you just see this utter look of disappointment on his face. It's like, oh, okay, it's a bit like that, is it? I'm Australian, therefore are we going to talk drop bears? Great.
Absolutely. But a little less drop bears, a little more Roussanne.
But yeah, so this is their new winery, father-son combination, and they still make their Rhone blends, their Syrahs, but they were a lot more excited about some of the other things that were coming up. And one was their Grenache. They were super, super big on their Grenache. And the other was these white Rhone blends. So here we are, the Plexus. From the Brossa, and this is our mixed Roussanne, Marsanne, and Viognier.
Absolutely. So I think Australian wine, there's a lot going on for Australian wine right now. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of really fun stuff. And, Wines of Australia are doing a really good job with education and trying to get more wines in front of people, because I think, 15, 20 years ago, what was getting exported out of Australia became, for a lot of things, a little bit of a race to the bottom. There was some really good, but I say really good, cheap, quaffable, jammy, did everything it says on the tin.
Compared to
juice.
What else was available at the time.
At that price point,
it was groundbreaking. Absolutely groundbreaking.
Yeah, very, very drinkable. But that made more premium wineries suffer, because everyone thought you shouldn't spend more than £6 on a bottle of Australian Shiraz or Australian Chardonnay. And those were the two kind of big boys that came over. And over the last 10 years, there's been a real push to kind of Australian regionality and the right grapes in the right places. Because you got
a real focus on quality winemaking and quality vineyard management and sustainable practices.
And you've got to look at the size of Australia and the climates and the length and the breadth. It would be the equivalent of saying Europe makes Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon. And that's it. It's like saying Australia makes Shiraz and Chardonnay. There's some amazing wines out there. You go to Western Australia, some of the best Chardonnay on the planet. You go to Eden Valley, some amazing Riesling. You go to Tasmania, Pinot Gris, some phenomenal sparklings.
Yeah.
And then,
possibly one of the best Chardonnays I've ever tasted from Tasmania.
Really. And then, here we are in the Barossa, which is famous for being a little bit warmer. And this is where a lot of the Australian big boys came out of, when we
Yeah.
talked about the Robert Parker wines, these 90, 100 point big Shirazes, that Molly Duca style, those kind of things, that 15.5, 16% alcohol, just plum and jam and fruit and just punch in the face, and a phenomenal style of wine if you liked it. But I think this is a little bit more restrained. What are we, about 12.5 on this?
Yeah, I think so.
So we're 12.5% here, which is, in the scheme of wine now, very medium, if not on the lower side of alcohol for a lot of, especially New World. You look at Chardonnays, 14.5% quite easily in a lot of Chardonnays. But what I love about blends is it gives the winemaker license to play a little bit. You can have a bit more Roussanne, a touch of Viognier. So you got the Roussanne to give it kind of the body. You got the Marsanne that gives it that smoky edge, that savouriness, and then the Viognier in there gives it this lift. It gives it this aromatics. I think it's absolutely just decadent bottle of wine. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I like the also the Rhone experimentalists on the other side of the world as well. In the US, we've got, I think have we done a Tablas Creek one, or have we not? We did
the Tablas Creek Esprit de Beaucastel.
The white, yeah. And they're also real experts at the Rhone varieties, such as the Roussanne Marsanne, and it's really lovely to see this style of wine. I think this is a little bit more subtle than the Tablas Creek one, perhaps.
Tablas Creek, I think, is a touch richer than this, but I think it's also a bit weighty. I think it's about 14% alcohol, so you've got that little bit more kind of richness and weightiness in there. But we should do it again. We did it. I'm reminiscing back to the beginning of the club. We did a Rhone Rangers tasting where we did the Rhone varietals for a love Tolpuddle. Absolutely love Tolpuddle.
That was the Chardonnay I was talking about.
Got this beautiful, we did kind of, round the world, these Rhone styles from different places in the world, and just to see how winemakers have taken what we see is such a classic region, the Côte de Rhône, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, such classic styles, and taken it and made them their own, but still, it's Rhône.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
It's
not. It doesn't taste like it's Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It doesn't taste like it's Côte de Rhône. But
there's something recognizable.
You feel the heritage.
Yeah.
You feel that's come and the sense of place, and I think that's really cool. So, what are you eating with this?
So, I was just thinking about that, and I'm kind of tending towards a sort of a creamy sort of, I don't know, maybe a creamy sort of chicken-based dish, because it's got enough strength of flavour for me to go with it still, but and it's got a bit of creaminess itself.
I agree with this. I feel this for me is kind of a bit more of a summery wine, but if I'm drinking it right now, this is kind of like chicken stew with dumplings, cream sauce, bit of white wine, those green garden peas to give it some freshness. That kind of
doesn't sound awful.
We need to stop doing food. We need to plan our food pairings ahead of time and have some good eats to go. But once again, look, we've got
so many different tasting
loads
notes,
of stuff going.
And going again into the different categories.
Okay, if I had to pick the one that I love in here, and whoever put that in, pleasantly restrained, and that is exactly what I mean about with Australian wine, where it can be. If this wine was being made generally 15 years ago, it would be 14.5%. It would be so overblown. It would it would be oaky and vanilla-y, and the fruit would all be this kind of like big stewed kind of style, which is fine if that's what you like. And I'm not anti these styles. I like big, rich, oaky Chardonnays. I love the things. But to showcase that Australia can make a wine like this, I think is really, really cool.
Is it worth just having a quick look at where in the world we are? So,
obviously it is. You put it up before you finished asking me.
Australia.
Yeah.
So this whole region, obviously, you can just see the way the coast moves around, and you've got these inlets, and you've got quite a few sort of very bits of mountain, well, certainly hilly things going on there. And I mean, Barossa is a place for big wines, isn't it?
Well, it is, but also it isn't. It's, Barossa is not much different to saying California's for big red wines.
Yeah.
a lot of California's big red wines. Absolutely is, because it's generally warm, it's generally rich, it's generally ripe, it generally does that. But then you've got these little nooks that you've got the Petaluma Gap where you get the breeze come through, and you've got Sonoma on the coast that does it. And if you look at Barossa, you've got that main bit where it's further north, it's coming inland and it's warm. But as you drop that, you're not a million miles from the coast when you look at the west side. You're not that far away. So you're going to get this cooling influence. You're going to get that in those parts. And I still think we have this huge divide in how we divide up the world when we talk about old world and new world. When we talk about France, and we'll talk about France next, in fact, we don't go, this is French red wine. We go, this is French Pinot Noir from Burgundy, from somewhere in Burgundy, in a village in Burgundy, in this. And then we go, and this is Australian Shiraz. And we might say South Australia, we might say Barossa, but we're not generally, to the same extent, dialing down to
there's a few
vineyard sites and
where you might say it's a Coonawarra cab, not just a cab.
But that's still nowhere near to the level that we put the precedence on old world wines. That we go into Piedmont, and it's not just a Barbera. It's a Barbera d'Alba, or it's a Barbera d'Asti, or it's a Barbera d'Asti from the north side of the hill. Or we really get excited about that, and then we go, it's Australian Shiraz. Do you understand what I mean? So when we say Barossa, yes, that's what you would generally expect, but there's finding all these little bits to go there. We are on wine number 2 at the moment. But you can always, it's recorded. So if you want to do wine number 2, come through with us, and then you can jump back and do wine number 1. Or drink wine number 1 very quickly. Just, one in. Drop bear in the tasting notes. Loves
Excellent.
it. Loves it.
I'm quite liking a thinking man's griot. I think that's fair. It's got a lot of complexity, and so many griots can be quite simple, but it's in that kind of what?
I'm being a thinking man.
Oh, you're being a thinking man, are you? Okay.
No,
being thinking elf, yeah.
Thinking elf and safety.
I thought that a bit of elf awareness there, I think. So but I absolutely get that. I think that's quite a nice analogy. It's got a lot more going on to most of the griots I've had. They can be very cheap and simple, but it's another one.
I think the first 2 wines we've had tonight, you go back and there's something new, there's something different. There's a lovely level of complexity about that.
So no silly questions at all. A griot is a type of grape that's very famous. It's very, very well established in Sicily. So it's a white grape, and it generally makes they grow a lot of it, don't they? An awful lot of griot. But yeah, it's if you were to imagine that, but dialed back a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Your griot is a little bit more. It's not one-dimensional, but it's a little bit more kind of simple, easy drink. But I get, that it's got that richness. It has that flora. It has that nice acidity to it. Yeah, fantastic. We're just going to skip over wine number 3. Yeah.
Do we have to?
Yeah, you don't like it. For those who are new, Alex is slightly obsessed with Burgundy and slightly obsessed with Pinot Noir to almost dangerous.
Let's gloss over that one, shall we? But I think just to be absolutely clear here, we are talking about Christmas, aren't we? So, I mean, Christmas is a time where probably most people are telling you deeply about what this pairs with. And they'll probably tell you it pairs with turkey and a nut roast. I just think that we're thinking about it's a time of year to treat yourselves and to drink good stuff. That's, I think, the primary thing for.
I completely agree. I think people ask me a lot. People ask me a lot about Christmas Day pairings, but what you've got to think about Christmas Day, okay? We eat everything, don't we? We eat everything. Yes. And if you look at that classic, where's the next bottle? No, it's not there. Yeah. If we look at the,
I don't think people want to skip the Pinot.
Oh, okay, we'll do it then. Well, you can skip the Pinot, right? If you look at that classic Christmas dinner that hits your plate, you got turkey, so you've got white meat there, yeah, that you might have a bit of crispy skin that's got that fattiness about it. We've then got our roast potatoes, so you've got that starchiness, fattiness,
Mhm.
lots of saltiness, depending, if you're cooking it in the fat from the bird. You've then got our vegetables, so you've got those bright, fresher flavors. We've then got gravy, and depending how you make your gravy is rich and decadent and over the top.
Generally speaking, my gravy involves several bottles of red wine going into it. So that then kind of pushes me in certain directions.
Exactly. And then, I might be a heathen. I might get in trouble in the chat. You may have a Yorkshire pudding on it, depending on
what?
I think you should have a Yorkshire pudding with every roast dinner, whether it's Christmas or not. So there's the chain of thought that with the turkey you should be drinking Chardonnay, perhaps. With that thick, rich gravy, you should be drinking the same red wine that you put into the gravy. With the roast potatoes, you should be drinking a Riesling with great acidity to cut through the fattiness. I'm a big fan of rosé with Christmas dinner because I think it's got great freshness, it's got this lovely lightness, and sometimes, because we do, I think portion control sometimes goes out the window a little bit when it comes to what goes on the plate at Christmas Day.
Yes.
And there's, I've only had 84 pigs in blankets before I've started. That if you drink one of these big, rich, classic wines, we talk a lot. I think Chateauneuf du Pape is one of the classic Christmas wines. You drink that, you have a couple of glasses of that at 15.5%. You're done for the day, aren't you? Done.
Yeah.
So,
I've done everything from huge Napa Cabernets. Obviously, Pinot Noir makes quite a regular appearance at the sort of Christmas dinner. I've done big, rich Chardonnays. I've done all sorts of things, I think we've got a very good point here about lots of people going, I'm actually a bit bored of turkey, let's do something else, and goose is a great alternative. How are you finding that, Jonty? Is that slipping down nicely? I will hope that he might reply in the chat, but we're going to Burgundy. Yes, we're going to Burgundy.
They are flying in on the tasting.
They are flying in. So I think there are a few people who are quite keen to get onto this one. And
all right, I'm gonna break trend here. I'm gonna break trend here because we don't usually discuss prices at this early point of the day. But
savor this.
It's nearly Christmas. He likes Pinot Noir, and I thought it'd be nice.
Go on,
so
Jamie,
this
go on.
is the most expensive wine we have ever done on the Online Wine Tasting Club. So enjoy. And I think this is one of these wines that I don't care if you like Pinot Noir or you don't like Pinot Noir. This is a wine that you can just sit and go, this is what great wine should be. I don't think there's much to be said about whether it's, it's not about whether it's a good wine or a bad wine. It's a great wine. If you like it, that's your choice. But if you don't like it, please, if you fold your pouch back up and, pair of hair straighteners, just reseal that and send it back to
Alex
us.
Taylor's house.
Exactly, that would be great. So we'll talk a little bit about it. And I think this is the wine that I want you to ask your questions in the chat, because I think this is almost like, I could badger on about it for a while, but this is the wine that I think, this time you just want to sit and savor and enjoy and not listen to an elf on the shelf shout about it.
Is that the goose is very red, or the wine is very red? Because obviously it's got a decent amount of colour and intensity.
For Pinot Noir, it really does.
My sister says that you don't get enough leftovers with goose. That's an interesting point. That's a good way of looking at it, especially if you are married to somebody called Nathan.
I would say get a bigger goose.
Get a bigger goose. That is always an option.
Solved.
I'm liking this suggestion actually, because I had never tried a sparkling Australian Shiraz or any other red wine until I met you.
Oh, when we did the Chambourcin from Dorenberg, the peppermint paddock,
which was one of the strangest things that I'd tried. I can see how that works because it's got enough tannins to go with that, but also just a little lift and some freshness. That's rather interesting. Alex looks like I'm having a very bitter moment. Yes, thank you. I am. I'm suddenly 13 again. Hold on. I shouldn't say that for legal reasons, should I? But yeah. It is still very young, absolutely. But should I put the camera on? Let's. But it will age well because
it absolutely will. It absolutely will. Well, it depends what you like in aging, okay? Because I like it like this because I like the fruitiness about it. I don't like my Pinot Noirs I'm not a big fan of older Pinot Noirs where they become more earthy and more dusty and more mushroomy. When I talk about Pinot Noir, I love this, but I really like my California style, my Central Otago styles. I like that richer, riper style of Pinot Noir. So I don't want something that's 10, 15 years old, and that's personal preference, my choice.
I think it really depends on how it's made for me, and I think that when if you overwork Pinot Noir skins, which is where the colour and the tannins come from, then they can be pretty unpleasant. But it does give you more of the kind of the chemicals that you need for it to age well, still with structure, still with a bit of something going on in the wine. So I think those slightly bigger ones, which maybe when you try them young, so I don't necessarily think that this needs to age at all. But I think it would age beautifully for, like you say, a good sort of 10 years or so.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is very nice.
Well, this is Jean-Claude Boisset, who we did another one of his Pinot Noirs a couple of months back. His more entry level Pinot, but this is his Gevrey-Chambertin, which is a village named wine in Burgundy, so from a particular place. Not huge amounts made of it. It's just good, isn't it? It's just lovely.
So I'm going to bring up this comment because I love this. I finally understand why there's so much talk about Pinot from Burgundy. And it's so variable. It really is variable at its best. And this is just the village level Burgundy. But at its best, it is like nothing else.
And at not its best, it loses Vino versus Vino to a Chilean Pinot Noir.
Yes.
So I was probably off the microphone.
Well, people are probably unable to hear anything because of this scrunching around, but there we are. It is a beautiful one, and it's lovely exactly as it is now. George is asking how long it spends in oak. Well, it's a 2021 vintage, so I'd imagine probably most of that time before it's bottled. But we'll get that.
I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably 9 months to a year.
Yeah. Let's pull up the map as well. So we're talking about village level Gevrey-Chambertin, and then above that, on the Grand Pyramids of Burgundian... Sorry, I'm losing my voice. On the pyramid above the village level, you have your Premier Cru and your Grand Cru, and these refer to individual little fields in the village itself there. So you can see which ones are just village level. The pink, they're all slightly pink, aren't they? But the ones that just say Gevrey-Chambertin, those ones, generally speaking, a little bit further down onto the flat parts. But as you start going up these hills, of course, it's south-facing. So that is where you're capturing a little bit more of the sunlight, and you start to see the Premier Crus and the Grand Crus. And in particular, as it goes around into this little valley around there, you've got some of the really, really good ones there. But this can be a blend of grapes from those sites. In some years, generally speaking, each producer only has a few rows of that vineyards on the Grand Cru sites, but you can start to see that level, and you'll find people who will tell you the exact soil makeup and the exact slope in every single one of those vineyards. That's not me off the top of my head, but I can tell you I jolly well like it.
I'll tell you, I'm not saying that people who are joining us for the first time, I'm concerned about their level of disappointment when they come back for the January tasting. Go,
no,
we're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we're not going to go with no alcohol wines next time.
We only drink Gevrey-Chambertin.
Yeah.
So we could do. This is the thing. We could do a Gevrey tasting, couldn't we? We could do.
So actually, the other thing that we're going to talk about today, obviously, I think we've kind of done the Christmas thing. We all know the things. Everyone's got their preferences, but we're also talking about wine service and how to really impress your guests when you bring the wine out, and
just bring one of these,
yeah,
and a straw.
But and we, in our little brochure that hopefully you've all got, we go into a little bit about how you serve it, what the glassware is like. And I mean, if your house is anything like mine, I practically have no matching glasses at all these days. I have to go out each year and try to buy some new stuff. But you can spend a lot of money on glasses, can't you?
You can, and there's a balance. There's a balance because the right glassware does make a difference. It really does. But you can't, well, unless you've got the space for it, you can't have a glass, for those who know Rydell, so we use Rydell's here. I really, really like the brand. They make great decanters. They make very pretty things. And they have a glass for just about everything. They have a glass for American Chardonnay or French Chardonnay. They have a glass for Riesling. They have a glass for Zinfandel. They have a glass for
They have
Barolo.
a glass for champagne, and they have a glass for English sparkling wine, which uses exactly the same grapes
and the glass for rosé sparkling.
Yeah.
They have a glass for single malt whiskey, American whiskey.
One could be slightly cynical and say that they're trying to sell you some things, but it does work. The fancier the glass, the faster it breaks. Absolutely, which is very, very disappointing indeed and expensive.
Yes.
But that's why.
So I think there's the Jancis Robinson one size fits all glass, which does a very good job. But I think there's the kind of, you should really, if you're into wine, you should have a slightly smaller glass that does the job for your whites, and then a slightly bigger glass for your reds.
Where do I get it from? The fruit seems to reverberate endlessly on the palate. Well, I hope that you're all enjoying it. That is great.
But we go through the tasting. We have the same glasses for our reds and whites during the tastings. And that's what it is. So I think what's important,
it's got to be big enough.
You need to have a good glass that you can get a swirl in there, and you can get your nose right in it. That's what you need to have. And if you've got that, you're okay. Thinner glass is nicer, but there's that, as the point is on there, there's the balance between the cost of the glass, the expense of the glass, the thinness of the glass, and having to buy them every time you'd have a glass of wine because you break it. There's stemless glassware out there that you can get now, which I quite like stemless glassware for at home. But the problem with it is if you're walking around with it, you're warming it up.
But getting it nice and clean is a very important thing, and I think the main thing for me is rinse it really well to get on any of the traces of soap out of it, because the soap is an enemy of all sorts of things in the wine. And
the worst one is
hints of fairy liquids from this.
I know, and it's not, that soapiness is not Torrontés.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
But you get soapiness in your glass, that will destroy any bubbles in anything ever. So you can go down the garden path and have every wine glass under the sun. But I think if you've got something that's got a big enough bowl that you can get some nice surface area, so you can give
sloped edges,
you get a nice swirl. You're gonna have the sloped edges come in because that will concentrate the aromas here where you get your nose in. And if the glass is too small, you don't get enough wine.
And if you want to try it for a little bit, just do it side by side. You will be shocked at the difference between, for example, I did side by side champagne in those really beautiful looking little goblets, which are open completely wide up, versus a proper typical champagne flute, versus actually a normal glass like this. And for me, the normal glass was the nicest by a long way. But what was really disappointing was how the ones which just open all the way up. Are they called goblets? I think they are.
The coupes.
Yeah, the coupes. Yes, exactly, the coupes. That just lost everything because it's so low. There's so little side to keep those aromas in. There's nothing to
surface. It's all surface area.
Yeah, it just vanished into thin air.
But you look at it, it's interesting because obviously when we talk about champagne prosecco, the flute is the classic glass, isn't it?
Yes.
And the reason for that is it makes the bubbles look pretty. Look pretty. But Krug, if you go to Krug, not a champagne flute to be found.
Interesting.
They use the tulips.
Tulips, yeah.
Which I think tulips for sparkling are great. So, if you want to celebrate, it's fantastic. A flute is fantastic if you're drinking something cheap and cheerful because the bubbles look pretty and they stream. It's great. A coupe, I think, is good if you're doing a very quick, short-term tasting to get the most out of it. Mm-hmm. But if you're just having a good glass of bubbles, tulip is perfect.
Yeah.
It's best of both worlds. It's it's basically a fat flute, isn't it?
You're a fat flute.
Wow, worked on that there.
We've got some wonderful tasting notes in here. Just what's quite interesting to me, tasting this for the second time now, is while I absolutely love it, there is more tannin than I remember, and there is a bit more colour than I saw first time, and I think that will help it age. I really do think that will help it age. So finding something that's got maybe 5 more years or 10 more years on this would be a really interesting comparison to make. This was still got tons of fruit to keep and preserve that.
There's a note on there for Zolto wine glasses. They're good as well.
Yeah, and go in the dishwasher. So there we go. Perhaps that's what a few people might be taking that hint on board.
Top tip.
There we go.
Dishwasher safe.
So we've talked about the glassware. What else do you think we should mention? Now, you get into the whole thing of how the cork should be opened, how it should be presented to people. Do we need to go to that full level at a family event?
No, not at a family event, but if you're going into a restaurant, if you're going out for Christmas Day because
yeah,
there's not enough goose for leftovers, you've gone out and get the goose from somewhere else. I think that's the point of what you should expect from the wine steward or the sommelier and that kind of stuff, and that kind of. I think sometimes there's a bit of a fear of the sommelier. It's like, oh, what do I ask them? What if I don't know? The job's there to help you. They want to get you a great glass of wine, and if you know what's meant to happen, it's easy.
Okay.
And
obviously they will care very deeply about the temperature in a really good restaurant. They will have separate temperature areas for the different wines that they're going. So particularly if you're going for something where it's poured by the glass and a Michelin starred tasting menu. But something which we're increasingly seeing coming around about now is people who are doing the wines using this very odd shaped thing. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will know what this is and who they are. Perhaps I should put it on the Badger Cam here so that we can see that. I'll have to bring it up. Okay. So this is what's called a Coravin. And for those of you who haven't seen one of these before, it's a wine preservation system. There are other brands available, but it's worth noting that we have actually just partnered up with this company, and they have come up with a system for doing little mini glass bottles that are a little bit like what we do with the pouches. So you might think that makes them a competitor, but actually it's a very different kind of system, suitable for very different occasions and everything. And we think that our system and their system are the top performing ones in the world for this, and so we've partnered with them, and now we have their machinery in-house for doing packing things up. And it really, really works where our system doesn't necessarily work quite as well, because effectively we have to do hundreds and hundreds of these things to make turning on the factory make any sense. Whereas we could take a single bottle of something that's super, super delicious and expensive, and we think maybe this could be something that we're going to start doing a bit more in the new year, isn't it?
Yes.
So we talked about trying to do the winemaker series, and it's been an absolute nightmare trying to get these individual events set up where with enough wine coming into the country and trying to organise the winemakers to it. But if we're doing it with a few bottles, then that works a lot more easily.
Slightly more limited edition.
Yeah. So we think that that's probably what we'll do, and we'll our winemaker series in the new year will be based probably using these little mini bottle things. So a nice alternative. But how does this thing work then?
I know. Have you picked the one that hasn't got a needle in it?
I appear to have picked the one. Have you got more than one?
Of course I do. I'll be right back. You continue talking. You can tell how it works.
There's a few people who are quite in on that one. That will allow us to do things like, let's do a vertical of this exciting chateau, and let's see how the vintages change it. I think that's a really interesting point to be looking at.
So
I'm going to add my tasting notes now.
You add your tasting notes.
Yeah.
So the Coravin system it's really cool, and you see this a lot in higher end restaurants who want to be able to pour great things by the glass, but want to be able to preserve it, because we all know you open that bottle of wine, and if you just have a glass out of it after day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it loses its little je ne sais quoi. So what this has, can you bring the Badger can towards me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's bring the Badger can. Let's try and do this. Oh my word.
There we
So
go.
what you've got is you've got this little, you see here, there's a needle there. Yep. And you'll put that on top of your bottle,
Here's a bottle.
push it in, and this needle goes through the cork and into the wine. Little button here, you press, and then in here you've got an argon capsule. So it pushes argon in and wine out, and because cork is porous, when you take the needle back out, it reseals itself. So you don't get any oxygen going in there. So the wine stays as close to as if it's never been opened. So you can take a glass out, you know, if you're a wine collector, you can taste a little sample out to try something. So it's a great opportunity if you just want to have a glass of something, or, you know, if you're gives the restaurant an opportunity to, you know, drink some really, really good wines without having to make you commit to buy an entire bottle. So you can go, oh, here's a 250 quid bottle of wine. I don't fancy a 250 quid bottle of wine, but I'd quite happily spend 30, 40, 50 quid or whatever it is on a glass to go with my main course for a special occasion. So it allows these wines to become accessible in smaller portions. Fantastic. Should we come back to that?
And we can now, you can do it as well in at home. They do one with sparkling, I think, as we mentioned in this as well. And all I'll say is that argon isn't a magic trick. It isn't a totally perfect system. So don't open it, have a single glass of Gevrey Chambertin and come back to it in a year's time and expect that it will absolutely, definitely be perfect. And our top tip on it is to use an alcohol wipe to clean the needle between each time you use it, because otherwise you can get nasty things into the wine in the first place.
To be fair, I don't know who's only having a glass of Gevrey Chambertin, to be fair.
Well, that is the challenge.
That is the top tip is just drink it. So there we go. The tasting notes are mental, aren't they?
They are.
Cherry, black cherry, pepper, oak.
More please, Jamie. That was me.
Oh, that was you, was it?
But yeah, I think people are more just getting carried away with the overall effect of it, and then that's the thing. It's got lots of these things, but they're all so subtle and so balanced. I think you could be looking for them all for a very long time, but it's just much nicer just to enjoy it. So yeah,
sip, drink there. But I think we've probably given people plenty of time to sip through that, and we should move on to wine number 4.
we should indeed. So while we're moving on to wine number 4, oxygen obviously is seen as the enemy of wine, and in most ways it is. If you ask
anyone,
apart from perhaps us, it's the biggest number one challenge with wine in the entire known world. It's not quite as simple as it looks. There are some wines which hate oxygen so much, and there's some wines which actually need a little teeny bit of oxygen. The oxygen helps the wines evolve. Now, that's a great thing if you've got a red wine which wants to evolve a bit. It's not so good if you've got a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, which will have some very, very easy to oxidize components. And so they react with the oxygen in the air. One of the things that you see put into wine is this thing. You'll see contains sulfites, which everyone gets scared about and thinks gives them headaches. But it's a really tricky situation, because this sulfite, one of the big jobs of it is to mop up any excess oxygen that comes into that container, and to extend the shelf life, keep the wine fresh. The other thing it does is it provides a harsh environment to stop things like bacteria from messing it up. But the one thing that we haven't found any evidence of at all is it making headaches at the moment. And so there have been a couple of other studies that have pinpointed wine headaches at histamines in the wine.
Yeah.
And there was another one the other day. I can't remember exactly what it was that we were saying. Was it?
It might be 16% alcohol.
But yes, I think it's probably mainly the fact that you've put a lot of alcohol in your system and drunk it, and we moved from using 125ml glasses to 250ml glasses, and
went from 12% to 16%.
That combines quite a big effect. But certainly oxygen. The way that you can do it is with you've all seen a Vacuvan that just pumps the oxygen out. It's not hugely effective, but it's better than doing nothing for sure. There's the blanketing systems like the Shush or the Coravan, and these things work by trying to replace the air with something else, which it doesn't react with it. But our top number one tip is use the fridge, even for a red wine. Get it closed back up again and get it in the fridge, because that will extend the life of your wine by a vast amount. So
Because you've got lots of things going on. We go oxygen, but there's microbial things as well, that kind of stuff. Okay,
it's not sexy, but
if you no one has ever left their chicken out on the side and gone, oh, the oxygen got it.
Yeah.
We take our food and we put it in the fridge.
Well, they did in the old days. That was the crazy thing. It was,
that was the demons, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, demons, oxygen, all sorts of bad spirits.
But that's the thing. What we've got to remember is wine is a living, it is a foodstuff.
Uh-huh.
So we need to consider it when we're trying to look after it the same way that we would look after other foods. A piece of cheese, we wrap it, we put it back in the fridge, to preserve the life. So it's not only oxygen, it's the microbial, it's the bacterial kind of thing. So wine has all those things as well. So putting the wine in the fridge doesn't stop any of these things. It just slows it down dramatically,
like hundreds of thousands of times slower.
There we go. So that's the thing. If you've got a bottle of red wine, chuck it in the fridge.
It's certainly the wine.
And to be fair, if you pour yourself a glass and leave it, it's not going to take a long time for it to come up to temperature. No. You're absolutely fine.
So there's your top tip, which you won't get told by anyone else, which is nice.
Anyway, should we talk about Piedmont?
Well, we should talk. Oh, have I just gone too far?
It's gone too far.
People are on the right one already.
They are.
Happy days. Okay, so we're in Piedmont. Now, we, for those of you who've been with us for a little while, we visited this winery, the GD Vajra winery, which is in Barolo. Should I pull the Barolo map up?
You're a man with a map today, aren't you?
Absolutely. So this is in the northwest corner of Italy, and Piemonte, as they would call it, or Piedmont, you can use either, but they would probably say Piemonte. And
what? Because it's at the foot of the mountains.
It's the foot of the mountains.
Indeed. Genius, isn't it? Genius.
It's smart. The area is spectacular. It truly is spectacular. But this winery from Vajra is in the Barolo area, and it's just sort of on that kind of northwest side of it.
Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful. It's going to get holiday storyish here. We'd been down in Modena, and we were driving up to Piedmont, and it is the most horrifically boring drive you have ever done. It is just flat and nothing. The
old Roman road has now got
and then you start,
8 lanes.
And then you you cross into the province, and suddenly there's these little hills, and then there's these slightly bigger hills, and then you can see where you're going by the castle on the top of each hill as you're going through. It's absolutely phenomenal. And we're driving through, and I'm like a little kid. It was my first trip to Piedmont, and I'd not done it before. And you're just driving around, and it's world-class winery next to world-class winery next to world-class winery, and it's me going, it's that guy, and Alex, I was like,
it's like having a kid in the car who's spotting things off their I Spy list, and except each one of them is a legendary winery.
Yeah, I Spy with my little eye, something beginning with Nebbiolo. But the reason we've done this wine today is, I think when we talk about Piedmont, there's some of the best wines in the world, and the most famous wines, and the wines that command the most ridiculous prices in the world come from Piedmont. We've got our, the Barolos, the Barbarescos, the Barberas, those kind of wines that, are known the world over. And are they spectacular? Yes, they are phenomenal. But I think what we found when we went there and we tasted through the wines with the winemakers is there's so much more to Piedmont than just those kings of wines. And I think we found that Barbera, we were very excited about to try a lot of Barberas that we hadn't done before. And this, Dolcetto. So Dolcetto means little sweet thing, and it is neither little nor
No,
sweet.
this one is not. No, but yeah, it's just absolutely fascinating to see how there can be such a disconnect. It's quite a big boy wine, isn't it?
It is. It's big. It's chewy. It's spicy. But when you talk about the kind of foods that you're getting there, you're getting a lot of wild boar. You're getting a lot of the hazelnuts, and you're getting truffles up there. So those kind of big, pungent, rich foods cry out for something like this.
I think one of the things that they were saying is that the climate has really improved for Dolcetto as well, and so what used to be a little bit sort of anemic, this is now suddenly really properly getting ripened by the sun, and if anything, possibly getting slightly too ripened. I think that's a really interesting twist on it. So you still see a bit of the sweetness in the character of it, but it's not a sugary sweetness. It's just that sensation of that link between sweet flavours.
Yeah, it's that ripe rather than sweet, if that makes any sense. It's got this richness about it, which I think is delightful. But this wine is fantastic. We got to talk with the wine there. How long were we sitting there? We sat there for we thought we were going to do a quick interview. We were in there for 3.5 hours to the point that the batteries ran out on the camera. So, we've got to stop. We've got no battery left. But you go in and it's a very almost half and half. That there's this big commercial part of it where it's all stainless steel and perfectly clean, and then you've got the tank room. They've got this old, it's stained glass windows. So you walk through and it's just blues and reds and greens reflecting off everything. It's absolutely beautiful.
And then when you go down into the basement, which obviously is where they do a lot of the aging of the wines because the temperature's nice and stable, there's this kind of shaft of light coming down into this sunken garden, and it illuminates all these ancient barrels that sat there still doing their thing, and all through to much more modern vessels and things they had. So they've just got, and then of course they go into the dark rooms where the smaller barrels were all kept. And
am I right in saying, if anyone paid attention at the beginning, the vineyard for the drone shot, that's Via, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
from our intro video. That was Alex playing with his drone over there. But you get there and it doesn't look particularly massive, does it? It's not like a big space, and then you kind of go down.
All of it's down here. Yes. And we didn't even get to see half of it, I don't think, because where was the crush pad? Where are the actual sort of grape processing parts? They don't like to show off those bits because those get a bit messy. But everyone loves to show you a good, pretty barrel room.
But I agree with George's point here. Absolutely, I think this has got a lot to give. It's got a lot of time, and I think you leave it, you'll still keep the fruit. You'll get more kind of like mushroomy, graphite-y kind of things coming out of it.
Crikey, the acidity on it as well.
Acidity's mental.
Yeah,
mental.
It's
but you've got to look. You've kind of got to look for it because you taste it and you get the tannins that. But then you stop and do the acid test. You're like,
how much saliva is it making in my mouth? Which it can be hidden by so many of the other things that you've got there. But it's incredibly high acidity, which is super mouthwatering. Again, works really well for rich fatty foods, for example, such as what they love around there. So I think you could easily age this 5 years, maybe longer.
I really think so.
Or you could have it with some nice cheese there.
So many options.
So many options. But a wonderful family operation.
We run out of space on the tasting notes.
I should bring it back up because everything's getting nice and small.
Yeah.
There's some hilarious tasting notes in there. I love it. Oxo cubes. That's great.
Sense of fancy cherry Coke. Licorice, blackcurrant,
red plum stewed in spicy tears. Yep.
Smells like marzipan molested sour cherry. Okay,
that's a sign that some people.
Can I tell you
what
we need to do next year is we need to make an online wine tasting club blend. Send it out to everybody to taste.
Or two.
And no, just one.
Okay.
Or two. Well, whatever we do. And we do this, and that's what the label becomes. The label is just the tasting notes from everybody at home.
That's great.
That's what it is. What does this wine taste of? By the people. I think that's awesome.
That makes sense.
There'll be lots of badger emojis.
I've just remembered we had a serious question up here.
We don't do that.
And it was about the Burgundy. And I think the question was what's the vintage like?
What was the 21?
Yeah, what was
vintage like?
21 vintage like? So it's still early days, and most of the people, I don't think, have really kind of formed their conclusions on the 21 vintage. However, the beginning of the year was horrific, because if you remember it was that year where the frost went all throughout Europe and just decimated things. So Burgundy in particular, being at the sort of northern part of the French wine world, did get hit badly by that. And they were all of the people were out in the vineyards trying to light candles, desperately trying to do everything they could. But there was a lot of frost damage. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad year overall. It just means it's a difficult year. And generally speaking, what you have to do at that point is that it's killed off all of the shoots. So you've got your nice hardened bit of wood, which is the cane, and off that grows a little bud pops up, and out of that grows your shoot. The shoot, off those come the flowers, which turn into the fruit. These are super, super, super vulnerable in the early months of the year because they are very light, very delicate, and a little bit of cold on those, it just dies. They just wither back completely. But the vine's quite clever. Buried deep down inside that original bud, there is a second bud, and also a third bud as well, to have another go. Now, you won't get as much fruit out of those other buds when they pop out, but it gives it some fruit, and it allows the plant to stay alive and to come back again. And so what you quite often find in those frost damaged years is you get lower yields, but actually it can be excellent quality. And I think it got nice and warm because that was, yeah.
Yeah, I think where we are with 21 is there's not going to be very much mid-grade Burgundian Pinot Noir. There's going to be the stuff that didn't make the grade, but people are just doing it for yield and they're just chucking some stuff together and doing it. And then the top people are going to be very, very selective of what they do. And I think that's kind of where you're going to be. We're going to have this kind of missing gap in the middle. There's not going to be a load of great 20, 30 quid bottles of Burgundy. There's going to be some bang average 15 quid stuff that I'm like, drink Pinot Noir from somewhere else because it's not going to offer the value for money for it.
Get your Romanian one.
And then the ones that are great, we might see some better, we might see some better value in the village wines and the Premier Cru wines, because if they found it tough with the Grand Cru wines, winemakers won't put their name on it if it's not to a certain standard. So what they may well do is declassify some of their Grand Cru stuff or Premier Cru stuff and make like a Village wine. So you can end up going, we've got a Village Gevrey, but it's actually got a load of Grand Cru fruit technically and a load of Premier Cru fruit in it, because there wasn't enough Grand Cru fruit to be worth doing it. But they don't,
or it can go the other way, and they suddenly have to put more and more of their good fruit into the really top ones. But you never know, and I think,
and they don't like to share a lot of that information. They don't want to go, oh look, I put all my best stuff in here by it. So it's there's a lot of secret squirreling around Burgundy.
A lot of the people who write about such things like to wait a few years to just see how everything settles down after a few to get onto it.
Well, Martin's got places to be.
It's got places to be. Oh, just good point, and we're in hint taken. But I've just got to say, isn't that bottle pretty? Look at that lovely artwork. It's got birds on it.
It's got an animal on the label.
There's an animal on the label.
Be good.
Must be good. Exactly. Shame it's not a kangaroo. But let's get the tasting notes onto wine number 5, because we are falling behind.
Oh, my word.
There we go. Daria's nearly finished. Oh, by the way, I can say thank you to Daria for trying to back me up there and saying that Jamie couldn't change into his out of his shirt until wine number 7. So
yeah, good job. I had 8 wines before we started. No, does that include last night's wines?
It does.
Sorry again. You need to.
I will do that.
Well, whatever you want to do. Right.
That's too nice.
California.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
California wine.
See, this is exactly it. Look at that loss of yield. So thank you for putting some numbers to my vague memory of that thing. But you're right. A lot of the normal yields gone, that means that you're going to find it very expensive. It's just there's just not enough to make those things. They're going to have to prioritize the good ones, and if you're losing half to 75% of your normal yields, that's a really bad thing. You've got to remember those grapes are behind as well as they're then growing. They're further behind in the growing season. They're not as developed. You won't get as many of them, and also they won't probably bulk up to the same kind of bunch weights as that you would be expecting. But it doesn't mean it's bad quality. And I think certainly from the evidence we've seen, you can make a very good wine.
I think what you find, I think a tip is, in a good year, when people talk about a good vintage or a bad vintage, in a good year, it means it's been easy to make good wine.
Yeah.
In a bad year, it means it's been difficult to make good wine. But good winemakers will still make good wine in a bad year, if that makes sense. So, if you go, 1982 was a phenomenal year for Bordeaux.
Or they won't make it at all. They will not, if they can't do it, if it's just not possible, they won't stick their name on it. Their reputation will just be...
But but you go, 1982 was a great year, 2000 great year for Bordeaux. So those prices go through the roof because you can buy anything from 2000. It was great, good drinking. This is where you find really good value if you follow a winemaker and go, you know what? I heard that this year was a bit naff, but I know this person generally makes really good wine. So that's always worth having a look at.
Now, this is a different sort of wine label, isn't it? Not a classic old world wine label. We've got lots and lots of celebrities on here, magazine covers, a bit of Elvis in there.
Bit of the Queen.
And what's that say? Vandalism is beautiful. There's what's going on here?
Lots
is going on here.
Okay, so this is quintessentially, unashamedly American red wine. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
it is bold, it's big, it's jammy, it's punchy, it's beautiful. I love it. And this is a wine brand called Orin Swift, and this is a wine called the Abstract.
Is it fair to say that like Orin Swift is close to, in your sort of playbook, roughly where I am with Burgundy? Like
I like the story. I think it's cool. But it's very different. Like Burgundy is about sense of place. Yeah. Burgundy's about sense of place, and Orin Swift is very kind of. It's almost a bit culty. You feel a bit kind of like you drink it. I feel like part of the club kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's because this is California AVA. This isn't from somewhere.
No, and in a world where California is inventing more and more and more and more and more regions and sub-regions and sub-regions of sub-regions, they've gone the opposite direction completely.
Because they have relationships with all these great vineyards and all these great growers, and each year they're like, well, we'll have the Petit Syrah from here, we'll have the Grenache from here, we'll have the Syrah from here. So every year you've got access to the best fruit of that year.
Yeah.
If you're in Burgundy, once again, you have a bad year and it's a bit crap on your vineyard, guess what? That's what you got.
Yeah.
That's what you got to work with. With this, they've got the opportunity to go, well, we'll have 10 tons from there, 3 tons from here. Well, sorry, these grapes aren't up to snuff this year, so we're not going to do it. So just across the board, like the artwork on these labels are phenomenal. There's lots of things in this stable.
They've got a really creepy one called Mannequin, which I don't like very much.
Ooh, but that's all Chardonnay.
It's a fantastic wine. But if Burgundy is the cult of the place, this is more like the cult of the winemaker's skill and the winemaker's art.
Absolutely. So the guy who does this is a guy called Dave Finney, and he created one brand first. He created a wine called The Prisoner, which was huge, had this kind of like cult status, and he sold that, and then he started up this Orin Swift brand that then has been bought by Gallo.
Yep. I can't remember how much was it.
Lots.
6? Yes.
Lots.
It would have been a lot more now, given what people are paying for these things. But
we're in the hundreds of millions. Sorry, I'm going off track here. I'm talking about the wine.
Yeah.
But the label here was interesting. So, Dave was traveling the world, and, when he saw something that was interesting in a magazine, when he was on the plane, he'd literally tear the page out and put it in his pocket and keep it. And then he decided he was going to put all these things together onto a label. And, there was some fun things with copyright law and the like with that. But he found out that for it to be copyrightable, it has to be a certain percentage of the entire image.
Yeah.
So hence why you can have lots and lots and lots and lots of little images. It's not copyright.
No.
Because it's not a certain percentage of your final piece of artwork, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But he was telling the story. I was lucky enough to meet him this year. And he was telling the story about putting this label together, that he had it laid out in the winery. Yeah, had it laid out on this table, all these pieces painstakingly, literally cut out and laying on a table. Somebody walked in one day and decided it was a little bit warm and turned the air conditioning on.
Oh no! That's hilarious. Oh dear, I didn't know that story.
Wow. all these wines, there's the story. You know, everything has the story, the artwork, what goes with it. So there's Machete, there's the Mannequin, and there's another one. There's one of his top end ones called Mercury Head, which is named after an American coin. I think it's from 1946. I might be lying, but
old.
Every bottle has one of these coins embossed into it. I started making
the actual coin stuck.
Yeah, the actual coin is stuck as part of the label, and they made this wine, and then they couldn't get hold of any more of these coins, so they were asking people to send them back in. So people were smashing the bottles and sending these coins back to Orin Swift so they could put the coins back on the label again. And absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, this is it's bold, it's rich, it's beautiful.
It's a lot to deal with, but it's fabulous. I think it's the concentration of the fruit flavors that's coming through. Yeah. Let's have a look at what people are saying. But obviously, it's a Californian red. If it didn't have quite a lot of chocolate, which generally comes from the oak use, but you've got this plum, black, dark, that really dark cherry flavor that's going through. And this is a Christmassy wine. It's absolutely lovely Christmassy wine, and I think the people who are saying that you could drink this instead of port, absolutely. It says it's 15% alcohol on it.
The Palermo is phenomenal. I was really excited. I had some people around for dinner a couple of weeks ago, and they turned up with a bottle of the Palermo. I go, do you know this wine? I'm like, you can come for dinner on a daily basis. Absolutely phenomenal. And that's another cool.
That kind of date is. Sorry, I met your date.
And that's another cool story. The Palermo has got this picture of an old guard on it from the catacombs, and it was a piece of artwork. And I think the story is, and I might not be 100% right here, so I don't quote me on it. So basically, it was the piece of art, and it was then copyright. So he found it in a book and put it on, and then people got upset. So he just bought the piece of art. He's like, well, I own it now, so I can do what I want with it.
That is fair.
Aging, so this could hang out. It could hang out if you wanted it to, but I think the point of this wine is it's meant to be big and fruit forward and jammy and rich. And if you leave it for 5-10 years, you're going to get more tertiary, more mushroomy, more kind of those kind of flavors. And if that's what you like, that's fine. But I don't think that's the idea of this wine. I think the idea of this wine is it's meant to be bold. Can I say politely, obnoxious, in your face,
brash,
and that's how it's meant to be drunk. And that's what I love about it.
It's a fun wine. It's a really nice, and it's a very, very Californian wine.
It's California. It's culty. It's cool. I love it. And
whereabouts is their winery based? Is it down?
So they've since they've been bought. So they're in the Gallo facility now. So,
okay.
So, but to start with, it was no winery, no vineyards, no grapes. It was just a brand, and it started kind of. It was, kind of like mates helping mates out. So it's just like, can I grab some grapes from here? Can I use your winemaking for some of this? And it's interesting. I've got a friend over in Slough who kind of
that's San Luis Obispo for people who don't speak Californian.
Sorry, and they've helped them get set up, and it's really interesting that you see Brandon and Slow Down Wine and his branding and how it is, and how that's kind of like run, and you can kind of see that kind of cool stuff. And Brandon, exactly the same. You know, he started. I think his first vintage, he made 97 bottles of Zinfandel, and you know, he stuck it in someone's like garage. It's like, can you look after this for? And he's gone from doing that to doing hundreds of thousands of bottles a year. So it's, you know, without once again not owning it. But there's more and more wineries doing that now. There's a lot of people that don't own their own grapes and they don't own their own facility.
You don't need to,
because that's bloody expensive.
It is, and there's enough grapes around already. So we're actually going to do early in the next year. We're going to do one of our deep dives into. Okay, let's say you do decide you want to. Yeah, I am. Let's say you do decide you want to plant a vineyard. There's a field come up near you for sale. You want to plant a vineyard. How do you do that? What are the decision factors that you put into that? So I think we're going to do a bit of a. Let's have a hypothetical. There's a field come up. For sale. What do you do to then get to the point where you make wine?
Email me your nearest field.
Yeah, because I think it goes through all of our heads at some point, and it's it's a really interesting topic, and it teaches you a lot about what's really important for the wine. So yeah, we're going to do that next year. This one, where are we talking about in California? I know you said it's from a variety of different places, but how presumably we are definitely doing sort of Paso Robles.
Yeah, with a lot of that kind of central. Yeah.
Lodi kind of things.
To be fair, it does change on a year-to-year basis. So I should probably know a bit more, but I don't because it changes so regularly. So that's me being.
But that's the thing about where you want to make a certain style of wine.
But there's another winery that does exactly the same. Like, and I think probably if anyone wants to send me bottles of wine, you can send me Cinquenon. Cinquenon is I think my favourite cult classic wine, and that's Manfred Krankel, and that's either he does Grenache, he does Syrah, he does some other bits and pieces as well, but it's generally Grenache, generally Syrah, and it's California AVA. It's not Napa, it's not Diamond District, it's not Stag's Leap, it's not this one. It's just I get the best Grenache and the best Syrah I can, and I make the best bloody wine I can, and that's cool, isn't it?
It's cool.
And you know, does it always have a sense of place? No, but is it damn delicious? Yes.
It's a fun set of tasting notes.
Can I tell you, the tasting notes have been phenomenal this month. Really have.
Really enjoying ourselves.
Thank you all for important to go to the next one.
I think we should get a bit of port in our glass because it's not Christmas without some port. That's my view on life.
So someone sent me a picture earlier saying that they'd finished their advent calendar. Like, the advent calendar's done. So apparently it is Christmas tomorrow because they've finished their advent calendar.
Excellent.
So well done. Well
done. Do some people in the chat have the advent calendar, and are you enjoying them? I've just so for those of you who don't have one of them, we've gone through 24 days, 24 different grapes. Well, we haven't. Some people have gone through 24 days, but there are 24 days to go through, and we're catching up with the videos as we go along to give you a minute of. For each day, because we think an hour and a half wine tasting each day might be overkill on us, but it's been great fun, and from our point of view, and we'd be really delighted to hear what you guys think about it. Have you got one down there?
No, because we sold out.
We sold out. Well, yes, we've still got boxes though. But yeah, we're going to. We tried to focus on basically single variety wines, or wines where they're almost entirely a single variety. And of course, things that are labelled single variety might always have a tiny little bit of something else in, just because that works, because they're allowed to. Let's have a look at this bottle. So we're going to port. This is a bit of a different sort of port. We've not done a port like this before, have we?
No, so we are Quinta di Infantado. Quinta di Infantado. I can't speak at this time of night, my word.
When I first thought it said Infitado, and I was like, this is all getting a bit political. But no, okay, Infantado, that's very different.
So we're 2018 LBV, so late bottled vintage. So bottled out.
But the key thing is probably these words down here. Now, unfiltered, So now we're getting into, why wouldn't you filter a wine? This is a kind of philosophical discussion.
So it's not now filtered. Now is not, isn't it? Not now filtered, unfiltered.
Yeah, exactly.
So unfiltered, which basically means
it hasn't gone through a filter.
Yeah, we've not taken all the stuff out. And A lot of wines get filtered to help them become a little bit more stable. Sometimes if they're not filtered, they can be a little bit cloudy and stuff like that. But I was with a winemaker once. Once again, the California winemaker, just to make a change for me. And he turned around and we asked. This was early in my wine career, when I knew less than I know at the moment. And that's saying something. You're focusing on the penguin now, aren't you, rather than the thing? So. But he turned around and said, so why don't you fine and filter your wine? Because I had this kind of thing that I thought, well, isn't that just a bit of lazy. Being lazy winemaking? Why would you not fine filter? Why would you not want this? Because when you do, quartermaster, you've got to go, oh, it's clear, star bright, no fault, that kind of stuff. But he said, every time you filter a wine, you strip away a little bit of its soul. And I thought that was quite nice. And that is the thing, you've created this product, and if you filter it, you are removing something,
You're removing something.
It's like vodka, isn't it? Vodka, it was 7 times filtered. I'm like,
no, it definitely doesn't taste.
You must have started with some really bad stuff if you had to filter it 7 times. So this is unfiltered LBV port. So it's this rich ruby red color. We've not got. This isn't done as a tawny aging kind of style. It's going very much for the richness.
He has some wine-loving friends who don't yet have many children, I think, is the answer. So.
Exactly. So what I do, and I am spoiled, and I have a couple of friends who will call me for recommendations and go, what should I buy? And they'll go, oh, buy this, buy that. So I'll do that, and then I'll deliver it to their house, and they'll be like, oh, you're going to stay for a glass. So I will sell them a really expensive bottle to then go and drink with them. It works very well for me sometimes. So thank you very much, everyone who does that. But most of the time, most of my life I live on leftover pouches. So that's kind of how it goes a lot of the time. But anyway, port.
Yeah, we should talk about port. Yeah.
So port, just a quick 1-2. It's you catch up with the chat. So the 1-2 of port from the Douro Valley in Portugal, and it's a fortified wine, and it kind of started 1200s, 1300s, because Brits like to get drunk and wanted to conquer the world at the same time, and loved the wines of Portugal. But we chucked it on a boat. It went around the world, and when it got off the other end, and when it got there, it was no good. It had gone off. It had gone bad. So how do we preserve things? And in true English style, add more alcohol.
Exactly.
Yes, let's add more drunk juice. So what they would do is they would add grape brandy, basically, to bring it up to anywhere between 17 and 22%. Is kind of where you see port, because then yeast can't grow, bacteria can't grow, that kind of stuff, and it preserves it. And that's where port came, and sherry were a very similar story. It was to enable us to move these wines around the world.
But I will just interrupt quickly, just say one thing that can still affect ports, which was a surprise to me, but shouldn't have been. Not blue cheese. Blue cheese does affect port in different ways, but no, you can still get cork taint on a port, very much so. So if you've got a port that suddenly doesn't smell of fruit and smells of just wet cardboard, and that's probably the cork. And we had the Portuguese are very keen still on using the pure undiluted natural corks, and they say that up to 10% of those do have some degree of the cork taint in them. So it can be a little bit of a risky.
I'm lost. I'm going to Chinon.
Yeah, but I think this is a great message. I like this. Yeah, that sounds great.
So are they hosting the next year's online wine tasting club on tour with all our members to do the wines of Chinon?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. We could all do that together. We keep threatening to go on tour, don't we? We keep threatening. We keep threatening.
Well, one day when we're not having to sit underneath machines and trying to keep them running, that will be great. But I haven't even tried this. Let's have a taste. And in the meantime, looks like a badger.
Oh my! It's got that. It's a Christmas badger.
Yay!
By the way, how much are you paying for these comments? The Advent calendar has a delightfully surprising range and consistent quality.
Well, that is my sister.
Yeah, I know. How much have you paid them out for that? Lighter than expected for an LBV. Okay.
I wish it was a Madeira. That's great. I like the toffee one. That's a very, very noticeable characteristic coming through. It's got a beautiful kind of like sort of aged sweet kind of thing going onto it.
I think it's absolutely delightful. And port, it doesn't. Fortified wine seems to. It only comes out this time of year. It really does. It's like it comes around to Christmas. We do some fortified wine, and that's kind of where we go. But it can be year round. We've talked to a lot of Portuguese producers that are saying, drink your 10-year Tawny slightly chilled in the sunshine outside. There's a.
To be fair, they would say that, wouldn't they? Because they'd quite like to sell a bit more of it, and they should, because it's great stuff. But it's a style that's a little bit out of fashion. People are generally going against things that have got sweetness to them, and lots of people are saying, "Oh, actually, I want to dial back a bit from these high alcohol things, like 19.5% in this case."
Yeah, but they do the 19.5%, but they'll drink a 16.5% Shiraz. Yes. It's not.
Well, I mean, we absolutely think that the art of this is to have a nice, slightly more sensible sized glass of it, and then drink whatever you want. So it's funny. Well, last year we looked at the non-alcoholic wines, and we've been quite impressed with some of the sparkling ones now. They're getting really good. The still ones still fall very flat, especially when, as we did last year, you compare them to
wine,
an actual wine. So rather than having, and the other thing about those non-alcoholic wines is that they make up for the lack of alcohol with a lot of sugar. So you're swapping one sin for another. So is it necessarily that much better as long as you drink with moderation? So, yeah.
So do we think while people have this glass of port that we should go to, is it quiz time?
I think we could do a very quick quiz, couldn't we?
I think
that's great. Yeah. Anyway, people seem to be enjoying
that. So while we're enjoying the port, we are going to go to our big drunk, I would say big fat Christmas quiz, but that's boring. Big drunk Christmas quiz. Sorry, are you playing with music?
No.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, we'll get people online to join that.
Does that background music mean no one can hear us though?
I would have hoped not. If you can't hear us, let us know in the chat. But yes, so we've enabled it, and people can join the quiz. There's not that many questions. People are joining. Fantastic, dropping some extra names in there. Great stuff.
Okay, you can turn them.
Shall we? Let's move it on to the first question.
No, we've got to get. Let's.
Okay. People are still joining. All right. Okay.
Get back.
We've got 21 now.
Turn the background music off.
Turn the background. You don't like the background music?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll change to something else.
Just off. Just off.
We'll
Okay, we're gonna give you 15 seconds for anyone else who wants to log in, and then we're gonna move in. I am not in the quiz. I'm not in the quiz. We got a prize for this one.
I don't know. Possibly.
Okay.
Let us see how we do. But okay, I'm going to move it on now.
Okay, winner of the quiz, we will let you gift a January tasting to a friend for Christmas. Okay, because it is a time for giving. It's not for us to give you anything. You should give to a friend.
That's a nice one. I like that.
There we go. Anyway, question 1. Let's go.
Okay, so let's get this up full screen. How fast can a cork come out of a bottle of sparkling wine? We should probably specify that this would be a champagne traditional method timed with sparkling wine, which is pressurized at 6 bar and not necessarily a Prosecco pressurized.
The problem is, you say that, people are going to come back in.
Oh, you didn't know. Yeah, that's so. Or how quickly does the bottle come out of the bottle of Pinot? There we go. We've got lots of answers. Via the quiz, towtc.co.uk/taste will take you straight to it, but the number is 349652. So yeah, most people kind of going at 88 miles an hour. That's got to just be a reference.
Of course it is. Okay.
There was a clue there.
Let's see what we got.
It's a DeLorean one. All right, shall we move on to the next question?
We've got to get the answers first,
I don't know how this works.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it's 46 miles an hour.
So 25%, and then you go again, and you see who's in the lead.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
Hey, Andre. So yes, you are rewarded for speed as well
Oh,
as
absolutely.
accuracy.
So you click one more. Next
fantastic.
question
Let's
coming
go.
now.
Is it a Christmas wine? Not sure, but the wine L'Enfant Jésus, or the Baby Jesus, is made by which producer?
Who doesn't like a bit of baby Jesus at
Bouchard, Père et
Christmas?
Fils, Louis Jadot, probably J.C. Boisset,
G-
Mouton Cadet, and Lafitte Rothschild. Or Rothschild.
Jesus Boissy. Yeah. Here we go. What we got? We got a bit of Mouton Cadet. We got it. We got Lachine. Bouchard, Père et Fils. Oh,
let's find out.
Unlucky.
Oh, wow. Not a single. I did not know that one, I have to say. So there we
Happy
go.
days.
That's
Okay, but hey.
So Jamie is disappearing off
Tomorrow
to the United States. Now, at this time of year, there'd be some obvious places to go, but he's giving you the options of Miami, home of the Dolphins, or home Dolphins. Does that mean you get a dolphin to live in your home?
You're not going to get through this question before the time runs out, are you?
Most people have got a swimming pool, so you could have a home dolphin. Chicago, the Bears, Wisconsin, the Badgers, and Phoenix, the Coyotes. Oh, let's see.
There we are. I am, in fact, going to Wisconsin, home of the Badgers.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Colin's there. Colin knows about his Badgers.
Fantastic. You thought that was a trick question. It wasn't. So, here we are now. We're talking about ice wine. And what is the primary grape variety used in the production of the sweet aromatic wine?
I'm going a bit backwards and forwards, aren't I? Here's a really technical question versus where's Jamie going on holiday?
Yeah, well, that's true. You've got Vidal Blanc, Céval Blanc, Chardonnay, Semillon, or Baden. Let's find out. We've got a good split of the different varieties there. Now, I think it's quite critical to say here the difference between ice wine and ice wine. Because, wasn't it?
Go on then.
Wouldn't you say so?
You can.
Well, I would say the ice wine, generally speaking, comes from sort of the northern parts of the Americas.
Absolutely. So if it's ice wine spelt with an E, it's German.
It's German, yeah.
And if it's ice wine, it can be there, but also Canada, where we see the Vidal Blanc.
Yeah. Although they do make some out of Cabernet Franc as well, which is
really
delicious.
good, but rather expensive.
And always these are tricky. Colin's still in the lead.
But he's been taking his time though, taking his time to get the answers.
Okay. Next question. This is question number 5 of 8. Which traditional Italian dessert wine is often served with panettone or pandoro?
I love it when you just have to when we go abroad and you just have to put on the accent.
Oh, absolutely. Lambrusco, Vinsanto, Amarone, Barbera, or Soave?
Well, it's quite a Christmassy question.
It's quite a Christmassy question. I like it. Because I know what I'd have with a biscotti or a biscotto.
So Lambrusco is obviously a sparkling red. Vinsanto is your nice kind of dessert one.
Yep.
Amarone, big, rich there.
Mm-hmm.
Barbera, nobody cares, so it doesn't matter. And Suave.
Go on, put that in. It's also Vinsanto. Very good.
So a little bit.
That's what I'd have with my biscotti. That's for sure.
Fantastic.
Joe.
Joe's into the lead.
Joe into the lead,
but it's
Emma
close.
It's so close.
It's close.
People are coming back. Next question. Senosilicophobia is the sphere of what? Running out of wine? An empty glass? Is that not the same thing? But, well, hosts of YouTube wine tastings writing terrible cover songs. God. Badgers. Or the embarrassment of serving a guest a corked glass of wine. It could also be people wearing awful, awful elf costumes, but it isn't. So we've got...
So everyone's
going for badgers at this point.
Fear of badgers.
Yeah. Okay.
So should I tell you why it's not badgers? You can't be scared of a badger.
Well, unless it's a honey badger, they're pretty serious.
But anyway, let's get.
That's on it. It is.
So it's an empty glass because it was originally referring to beer, but it also does.
Well, it works. It works.
Is it Dorenberg has a wine called the Sensiliaphobia Cat?
Of course they do, because they also have a winery that's shaped like a Rubik's Cube.
Absolutely.
Let's move on.
Let's see where we're at.
Matt's back into the lead. Coming back fast. This is great drama. So, last year, someone called Alex did a cover of Santa Baby, but whose cellar did he want the keys to? Was it A, the royal family, B, Louis Jadot's Claude Vougeot wine cellar, Oz Clarke, Jamie's, or the White House? I could add in there quite some of the Chinese companies I visited had spectacular. Huawei had an insane wine cellar.
So there is a point. People have been following us for a while, and they know you have a slight Burgundy obsession.
That's a reasonable answer. But in the
But
song,
can I just say, after I say the people come around, bring that, you don't want to come to my wine cellar. I'm very disappointed. But the song, it was in fact Oz Clarke's.
It was Oz Clarke's. It fitted the words a bit better.
Okay, next is the last question.
The last question. So Collins just nipped into the lead,
but there's only seconds in it.
There's only very tight. So all depends on this. So I'm going to give you a countdown: 3, 2, 1, go. What is this? Is it the world's saddest Christmas tree? Is it a bottle dryer? Is it the storage space to make it more efficient for storing my wide range of shirts? Or is it a shoe rack for a centipede?
I should probably spend a little bit more time doing stuff with wine than writing these questions, shouldn't
I? 93% going for the bottle dryer.
Whoever put 4% should get extra points.
I think there's definitely a bonus point for Alex's shirts there. But
but let's see where we've got to.
It was the bottle dryer. You were correct.
And let's see where we are. So Colin is our winner.
Congratulations.
So give us a shout. Give me an email, jamie.smith@onlinetasting.co, and let us know who we want to send a pack to in the new year.
Thank you guys all so much. I hope you really enjoyed that. We've had a great time. I'm going to pop on the wine of the night vote for now. What have we got planned in the new year? Well, we haven't properly had our post-Advent calendar sit down to work out everything we're doing, but we're kicking off the new year with our annual trends of the year, which isn't going to be non-alcoholic wines this year.
There's going to be no non-alcoholic wines because January's miserable. There are some non-alcoholic wines are great, but when you put them in a comparison with wines, it's quite a difficult thing. They get a little bit lost, and it doesn't do them justice for what they're trying to achieve, in my humble opinion. So we're going to do trends, but we're also going to have a little chat about the role of influencers and wine journalists in the industry. So if there's anyone in the chat who is wine journalist, wine influencer, any kind of thing like that,
that's coming off for opinions,
and would like to jump on and join us, or if you're a wine drinker and you want to offer opinion on wine journalists that you follow or influencers that you follow, and think that that's how that helps you choose wine and where it's useful or not useful for you. We basically want to have some great wines and have a bit of an open town hall about how people get their wine information and what's important to them. So if you'd love to come on the show, you can either come and hang out with us at Leighton Buzzard, love to have you,
absolutely.
Or we can dial you in and you can just jump on and have a little chat with us. So if you fancy that,
just send you a link and you can use your webcam and like we used to do on Zoom with things like that in the old days. I love the idea of this a session on aged wines to show how they can evolve and how they can really build such complexity over the time. Whether we do that in the kind of smaller level, that might be a better place to do that. Also, I've got to say, I love the idea about building a wine cellar. That sounds great. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one, but that's great to hear that you're enjoying, Keith, the idea of all the notes in the folder. We really think it's quite a nice little thing to keep, just as a reminder of what you liked and didn't like, and so you can just find the right thing. But that's fantastic. There we go. At the Wine Giant is here. Well, Bob, we'd love to talk to him. That's fantastic. We'd love to. I think it's just such an interesting topic. It's like, where are people getting their wine information from? Who is making them? I don't think we're influencers. We're just two idiots who sit and
we're influencers, if anything.
Influencers. That makes sense.
Jamie said this is important, so ignore it.
So ignore it.
So what
shall we find out the wine of the night? I mean, what do we think would be the wine of the night? It's the Pinot Noir. Of course it is.
I thought it would be. Do we want to quickly pop up the prices so people can see where we're at?
Okay. So we're not expecting you to
so you can understand how much we love you all at home at Christmas, because this is what we have sent you in this tasting pack.
Loss making, but that's fine. We've had a great time. That's the main thing. If you do want to get some of these wines in, we don't have vast stocks, so just drop us an email and we can get them to you. And if we can get a little bit of it to you before Christmas, we will. It really we've got
a little bit of everything at the moment. So, but as we said, the Gevrey Gévaudan at £103.50 is the most expensive wine.
50p is the critical.
It is. It is. Well, the fact is, I was like, do I do it at $99.99? I'm like, no, I need £100 wine in the tasting. And that's all that matters. But I think what's interesting here is, are they the cheapest wines in the world? Absolutely not. But I really think if you look at, if you look at the Plexus at 25 quid, I think it offers some really good value for money. The Orange Swift Abstract, you compare it to a lot of these Colt California cabs that are hundreds of pounds. There's some good value in there. I'm not saying it's a cheap thing that I'm going to drink all day, every day.
Well, it's like Finn was saying, the price of the Cabernet from Orange Swift is even when you're talking in America, these are seriously expensive wines. So by moving just slightly to the side and going for the grapes which Americans don't just reach for and go, I want that instantly. I think by creating this brand name, it's been a great way to do it.
But it's been an absolute pleasure. I think we've run a little bit long tonight, but I think everyone's had a good time. If there are any final thoughts, get it in the chat. But yes, we'll be back in January. We are going to, in the next couple of weeks, try and get a bit ahead of the game. So we've got a plan of what's going on, not only with the club, but with the Winemaker series. For those of you who have purchased the Louis Martini tasting, that will be happening in February. I'm just waiting to hear back from Eduardo about his availability to get that back and going. And once again, 2024 is your club, it's your year. We want your feedback. We want you to tell us what you want. And hey, tell a friend. The more people we can get on here, the great.
I just love this comment. This really, really makes me feel very happy, because I really hope we've started a few people on a journey into discovering and appreciating this amazing thing that is wine, and we've enjoyed every minute.
So very interesting. You might keep an eye. If you don't follow us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, Online Wine Tasting Club, because I will probably be doing a Instagram live from a winery in Wisconsin on Friday, of all places. So it should be a lot of fun. Really excited for what we've got coming next year, not only with the club, with the Coravin opportunity, and exciting times. Brilliant. And hey, we've not had a song for a while, so have a wonderful Christmas, holidays, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you all again very soon. Have a great night.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Trekking through the vines, the rows of Chardonnay, pruning as we go, drinking all the way. Riesling is the king, makes Jamie's spirits bright. What fun it is to sip and sing a winey song so predictable. Oh, Gamay Rondo smells Pinot all the way. Oh, what fun it is to taste on a festive holiday. Hey, Gamay Rondo smells, cheers on Christmas Day. Oh, what joy it is to drink a Napa Cabernet. Gamay Rondo smells Pinot all the way. Oh, what fun it is to taste on a festive holiday. Hey, Gamay Rondo smells, cheers on Christmas Day. Oh, what joy it is to drink a Napa Cabernet.